And I think we're live. Yes, we're live. Here we are.
Hey, hey.
Another episode of the Musty Wargamers.
Season 4, episode, is it 10?
10, I believe.
Episode 10, I think it is.
Yeah, I think we're in 10 now.
All right.
Crazy. It's like 4 years, 10 episodes, and we're doing what? How many? 15, 16 episodes?
Roughly,
how many hours of your life have you put into just making videos between the two of us? And what do we get for it? Just entertainment. That's it.
It's nothing. It's nothing.
It's nothing.
So, how has your week been, Rusty?
Well, it's been kind of interesting and not a lot done. I've been running around a little bit this week and trying to get stuff. There's like spent one day. No, I was in one of my videos. Maybe I did talk about it. I was like trying to get my tags renewed for my vehicle, and they say, "Well, you can do it online. Just use this little key code number." Well, that didn't work. So obviously something's wrong there. So okay, and call them up, and it's like, "This is not working." Well, just come on in. Okay. So I go down. They go in. And get met at the door by the security, and I go, "What are you doing?" "I'm going in to get my tags replaced." "Oh, you can't come to the building." "Well, they told me to come down." Well, I hate it when they tell you that. People who do that. So what do you mean? It's like, well, they tell people to come down all the time, and they can't come in the building. They're just screwing with people. I'm like, seriously? It's like, oh, yeah, they do it all the time. They just like bleeping with people. Like, think this is our state government working for us. Yeah.
So in the end, did they tell you you're supposed to go online?
Oh yeah. So I ended up just sending a check in, and now it was like still waiting for my tags.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, so, and it's like I'm still waiting for my tags, and it's like, fine, I'm just curious. So I ended up calling and went to go talk to somebody. And I ended up spending almost 3 hours listening to elevating music as it goes down the queue. You are now number 76 in the queue. Wipe the drool off that guy. So, yeah. So those time I could have been working on stuff, and it's like I'm just sitting here waiting.
Looks like
hey,
we have the Yankee Wargamer. Hey, hello, sir.
Eric is now going to be a local.
Oh, is he moving to Iowa?
That's a possibility. I cannot confirm or deny that.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah. So, and then today was the great blizzard escapade. So I was telling you offline what I was doing there, driving around, driving Miss Daisy today in the whiteouts.
How's the hobby life been? I know you've been doing a lot of fantasy stuff with like small scale miniatures.
Yeah, it's like you could see one of the armies. That's what army is that? That's the dwarf army sitting right there.
Nice.
I did a video. Let's see, the dwarf video will be up on Monday.
Yeah, the last one I think I saw was the orc one.
So hey, here we go.
There you go.
You need some Iowa tags too.
Iowa's becoming the nexus of wargaming.
The interesting
There's another Iowa guy.
Eric will be neighbors with my parents. It's down the road. So.
Oh, that's sweet.
Yeah.
So we got like 3 people from Iowa in this room right now, including you, Rusty, and then 1 from Canada.
Hey. They like take off, eh?
That's sweet. Cool. So, what's your musty drink tonight, Rusty?
Well, the musty drink of the night. It hasn't been on here in a long time.
Okay.
It's 12-year-old Glen Moray.
Has a little bit of an essence of eel in it. It's on from the coast, right?
Yeah, there's a little bit left in it. Smells good. I need to get another bottle of this. Almost killed it. This is kind of a little bit of citrus vibe to it. It's one of these days I'm going to get probably buy they have the Chardonnay cast one too. I want to try that one out. So, and I do have a few things here that I've been working on. I think I put this up on my channel. This is I finished the Giant. So got the Giant done. I think, yeah, I was going to finish it before our last show, but never got it done. So now it is complete. So the Giant is complete.
Nice.
And then I have a Lich Priest. Complete.
Oh, yeah.
I think I should put him up on the Musty Wargamers channel, but he hasn't officially been up on video.
On the video yet.
This is his video debut. So got the Lich Priest done. And then I started working on this guy. The bear.
Oh, yeah.
I
don't think I've seen that one yet. Is that an elf on him?
A dwarf.
Oh, it's a dwarf. Yeah. Okay.
A dwarf on a bear.
The reason I said elf when I first looked at it is there was the old Beastmasters with the wood elves that had a bear.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's okay. So that's 15 mil. Is what
right.
Yeah.
That's grizzly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or a brown bear, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
And then I have this dwarf hunter that I finished.
Nice. That's cool.
And
so you have a dwarf hunter, meaning he's a dwarf that is a hunter, or he hunts dwarves?
Sure.
Because he looks kind of big.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and then there's the mimics.
Yeah. That's cool. That's awesome.
And we also have been playing a little bit of this.
That's right. Yeah. Armies of Arcana.
Armies of Arcana. That's been a lot of fun doing that.
It looks very retro.
Yeah.
Which is cool. I like that.
4th edition. So we've been playing that in 15 mil. Been a nice little enjoyable time playing that.
When was the printing on that?
That one was 2002, I think.
That particular one?
Yeah.
Okay.
It was originally came out in 98, and they printed that one in 2002. And around 2010, they came out with a 5th edition, which was moved over to England as production line. And it's basically fallen off the wagon, and I have no idea it's even available anymore, because you'll go to their website and it's like not available. So
nice. Oh, hey Brad. I did not look at the comments yet. I didn't see you come in. Sweet. So we actually have another guy from Calgary in the house. So we have like 3 or 4. I'm almost stopped counting people from Iowa that are in here, and then I've got one person from Calgary that's come in as a reinforcement. So there's 2 Calgarians in the same city. I've got a little bit of an enclave now. So
your little bitty pocket of enjoyment.
Yeah. So we got like Iowa, like the picture of the United States, like all this like density in Iowa, and then like a couple over here in Calgary. Yeah.
Right now we're enjoying Canadian weather, so.
Well, I will do a quick. I just put a video out, and I've been showing this, so I won't spend much time on this at all. But as far as my what I'm working on, I showed this just now. So yeah, not great angle here, but
I just
working on the
noticed you put a
diorama.
video out on that.
Yeah, I just put it out. It's like literally last hour. The light's kind of washing this out right now, but this is I'm going to do a pour tomorrow or Saturday of resin, clear resin, to do it like him crossing a river. The water's likely going to come up even this high, like pretty high. And yeah, like that's kind of where I'm working on.
The log completely done?
Yeah, finish it. Although It's really washed out right now. It's kind of hard to see, but yeah.
Is that kind of like a birch?
It is. Yeah, exactly. It's supposed to be a birch. That's kind of what I went for. I looked at it. It looked like a birch with the bark to me. So that's kind of what I went for. But that's that. I got the thing over there, the Marvel thing that's just waiting. He's like ready to punch me because I've not painted him for so long. And I've got to work on my Rangers. So I got to start. I'm going to start assembling tomorrow, next day as well. My British Roberts Rangers, and so for French Indian War. So that's that. And more importantly for tonight, I have my Musty drink. Now, I had this one floating in my bar fridge in the basement, and from when I went out and got myself, like over the holidays, some tall beers, and I forgot I had this, and this is
oh yeah, that's good stuff.
Have you had that before? I never had it before, so I thought I'd try this. Is it, how do you pronounce it? Is it Czech Var?
Yeah, Czech Var.
Okay, yeah. So it says it's a product of the Czech Republic, and so I'm going to have this guy tonight on the show. And I'm in the mood for a nice tall glass of beer. So that's mainly it for me. Like, I'm just working on that guy. I'm going to start working on my unit of Rangers, and that's about it. I want to get in a game of the Marvel game, like a first try of the game, and I want to play another game of Shark Practice and put it up on the channel, like a solo game. But I haven't been doing any gaming with friends still with the COVID, so I haven't been doing much of that at all. And so I've been doing I've been really when I'm not painting, because I'm not gaming, I've been really doing a lot of my cinema hobby, watching movies and music too. Like, I've just been like spending so much time like listening to music and watching movies and stuff over the holidays and things, and that's kind of what I've been up to.
What do you think of the beer? The Pilsner.
Oh, it's smooth, really nice, easy drinking beer. Looks kind of nice color there.
I find it similar to Pilsner Urquell.
Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, no, it's quite nice. Goes down really smooth. It's probably going to go down too fast.
That's why you need another bottle.
Yeah, that's true. But that's why I also have the extras, the big size. This is it's not as big as the beer I had on the show last time, I don't think, because this is 500 mLs. So it's 500 mLs. Yeah, so it's like a 20 ounce, huh? Oh, it's not even. I didn't even pour it all out.
Yeah,
There's more than I thought. I filled it to the top, and there's still a lot left. I'll have to replace my sips for a little bit. So yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm enjoying some of the projects, the painting projects I'm doing and stuff. But yeah, gaming has been kind of slow for a while now, it feels like. So Eric says, that's beautiful, Palmer, and I think this beer is gorgeous. I agree. I'm just kidding.
The only way to make it look better is have it in the lake.
So I guess we should go. We got some comments coming in.
We're caught up.
Yeah. You want me to introduce the first and I'll have you introduce the second tonight? Does that work?
Yeah, that worked.
All right. So, and before we start the first topic, we'll say hello to Scott, the Knight's Pantry, another Iowa gentleman, if I believe that's correct.
Yes. Scott here is closer to where Eric's going to be living. So
we have more Iowa people in the house tonight at one time, almost than ever so far, and we're hardly even started the show. And so
we're taking over the internet tonight.
Yeah. And so
the reason is we have nothing else better to do, because when you have a blizzard going on, just like, what are you going to do? You just sit at home, watch videos.
What do I do when I have nothing to do? Oh, Musty Wargamers. Just kidding. So
are we boring?
So first topic tonight we were going to talk about is, and this is really broad, but we have kind of a specific aspect to it too, is how do you choose to get into the games that you do? Like, what goes through your head? Some of this could be really obvious, you know, as far as why you like what you like, but maybe there are certain things before you invest that makes you decide to actually kind of click the button for the electronic payment or pull out the wallet and with the big wad of cash. And so is it in some cases, and one of the ones I just wanted to touch on, it could be one of many things, how much does having to have friends that will play it calculate into your decision to finally pull the trigger?
Well, sometimes a lot. There's like that peer pressure. That's a big deal. Is that some people are able to make their saving throw. I'm not buying. And then it's like, what do you bought? It sucks to be you. But yeah, it's. I personally think that when you got a group of people, it's like right now we're playing. I bought that set of rules and kind of played around with it a little bit. You know, got forever and a day ago. And it's been sitting on the shelf, and then all of a sudden we started a month ago, started talking about, hey, we got all these 15 mils. I wouldn't mind playing some 15 mil. So I think wouldn't mind playing some 15 mil. Then we all realized we do have a lot of 15 mil miniatures. We could. It's like, now we just need a rule set. And I was like, I got you there. So, yeah. So I do believe it does come down to a little bit of peer pressure in the beginning, is that enthusiasm aspect of it. I think will motivate a lot of us to step off and make the plunge. Mm-hmm. And then there's, I think another group is when you start seeing a lot of videos that hype start going across the internet. You know, when you start seeing lots of videos about something like BattleTech or something, you know, say that's a new game, and everybody wants to get into it. Drink. But I can throw it in there.
So are there any other major factors that come into your mind before purchasing?
Well, I always like to look at some of the mechanics going on with it too. Like, I'm a mechanic type person when I like to look at it and say, is there some type of something about it that intrigues me, that you see going on, that it's like, you know, that actually is kind of tickling something that, you know, I haven't seen in a game or seen in a long time.
What kind of word games are you playing? You said it's tickling something? Okay. Keep going.
Whips,
chains.
Did
you have something else to say?
Wax, hot candles. Oh, what was that movie? Weird Science. There we go. That just suddenly popped in my head. Weird Science. It's alive!
That was a good one, actually.
That's a good movie.
I love it.
Well, that would have been a great 80s movie. Yes, it is. I'll let you. I've been kind of hogging it. I'll just throw it back at you a little bit here.
Well, it's hard for me in some ways to answer this. I almost feel like I have to kind of go back in time 6 months, because I almost feel like I've been putting, like, if you considered like everything I want to get into in the games I play is like this chest. You know, I've been putting like several layers of padlocks on it over the last bit and trying to like not get into new things, like, you know, in the sense of, and just trying to see how everything I am currently into is really what I really want to do right now. But having said that, we all know that there's always a way to get into that chest, and also, you know, that ultimately there isn't a time of 6 to 12 months that I don't pick up a rule set. It doesn't seem like, you know,
so
even
what you're saying here is that you have a false bottom that you can enter that chest.
Yeah, there's something that there's some sort of false panel or something in there.
A teleporting device. Is that what you're saying?
I think it's probably something like where I sleepwalk, you know, and actually do something I don't even realize. I somehow get it in there, you know, have the keys somewhere. But to not get too far off track, I do think that I think it's wonderful having people to play the game with. And I feel lucky that with close friends that I play the games with, that usually in particular, if I'm willing to paint two sides, I always can kind of have an opponent usually. As long as it's like semi-interesting, you know, if I'm willing to at least put together two opposing sides for the entry-level battle, like not necessarily the full, I can usually get an opponent. And so because of that, I try to focus on my enjoyment, personal enjoyment of like what it's going to be like before I decide to get it. Like it's got to be something that I'm really, you know, and where does that start? It's usually the miniatures, you know, and the period. Like, you know, like first, like, do I really think I'm going to enjoy painting these? Because as we talked about in the last episode, I probably do put painting one level higher than gaming, you know, in general. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like I really need to feel like can get immersed into this game through the visual, and so that's like the number one. And then importantly, like if the game seems like it's going to be ho hum, like it's not going to offer something, you know, above and beyond what I have now, then that is going to be hard for me to get into. So there still is that strong gaming component. And so it sounds selfish when hearing it come out of my mouth when I say I don't like, it's not friends first, like that they like a group of people like of friends like to get into it with. I find that the reason why I can say that that's not number one is that I do think I have a few good friends that I can like get a couple of them, you know, maybe not every one of them, but like into every game, but like, you know, I can get a couple of them, particularly if I'm willing to do a little bit of the legwork because it's something I'm championing, you know, in the beginning. So that's kind of, so in a lot of ways, like I don't feel, I'm almost kind of resistant to just go with the mob, like, you know, just get into it because there's just so much of that happens, you know, like that I feel like I could just be buying and painting forever and never I'm already can't get caught up. And that's even without like following every single thing that the greater group wants to do. And so that's kind of my thoughts on it. It's primarily miniatures and painting. And like, I have to really feel like I'm going to be thinking about it a lot. Cause like for a lot of us, we're inspired by these games. And if we're not on our free time, like envisioning the period, whether it be historical or fantasy, and just really like doing something that we're immersing, like kind of get that level of immersion in, then it's kind of hard for me to invest, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's that thrill or that excitement that comes with a game that motivates you to want to paint the miniatures and
Mm-hmm.
play the games.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, you know, when you look at something, is that excitement, is it going to spill over and continue, or is it going to be a flash in the pan type thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a lot of times when the reason I own so many rule books is because I'm always looking for, it's like, you know, I was like, yeah, there's some excitement going on. And I'm seeing that excitement on the internet. It's been really bad the last, you know, 10 years because, you know, obviously with YouTube, you start seeing more and more different kinds of games. And you're like, oh, that looks interesting. And it's like, and I'm willing to spend $20, $30 on a rule book than versus spending $300 on miniatures.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have plenty of miniatures. And it's like, okay, I'm going to try out look at the rules, flip down, sit down and read it. And then say, all right, what are the mechanics? Or is this still that same old reshooting the wheel, or that you go, I go, or are they trying something totally different in the mechanics? That was like, you know what? They kind of spruce things up. That's a kind of nice little mechanic they got going on.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding myself actually kind of like, I could see myself playing this. And then it comes down to the hard part is in convincing your friends that they want to play it.
Yeah.
And that is the big sale. That's the hard.
Do you find it's hard to convince a friend to play it if you actually are willing to kind of create a bit of a scenario and paint it up?
I'd say you got about a 45% chance. if you're doing all the work.
Okay.
That it's going to go forward. Because I've
So a
gone
little
through
less
that
than
where,
a 50-50 chance.
Yeah.
Like not quite. You can't even say 50-50.
No, I can't.
45.
Yeah, it's like it's not there. Because there are times when
Not even 50-50.
it's not even that. No.
So we got another Calgary person in the house. So I'll say hello to Jeff Model Garage, who's not necessarily from Calgary, but hello, Jeff. But then David Moffat's in the house, and he's from Calgary. Hello, David. And the reason I bring that up tonight is that we've had this huge influx of Iowa people tonight, like tremendous amounts of Iowa people. Now we have number 3 for Calgary. So we're kind of just holding that little bastion there, just trying to prevent ourselves from getting totally converted and moving to Iowa.
Well, we got some. Let me go through these comments real quick and just see what we got here, because I haven't been looking at the comments at all. And so we got that one, and like whereabouts Lansing. Yes, he's going to become an Iowegian. On the river. Okay, we got Fredericksburg. Okay. Been there. All right. Historicals. Yeah, it's like we may end up getting Eric here involved into our little, how we say, bolt action. There's a possibility there. And howdy. Hi, Jeff. See, Jeff is Wisconsin, I believe, or is it Illinois? I can't remember. It's one of the two. I think it's Wisconsin. Another. And let's see. All right. Yes, here we go. We got Barons War. I picked up Barons War. Smitty here has picked up Barons War, and Dan has picked up Barons War. So it's like suddenly we've got a whole bunch of people who are picking up the same rules. It's like there's hype there, maybe. Hey, everybody. Oh, okay. Trying to convince us to play Oathmark.
I've actually had several people, trying to convince me to play Oathmark, actually, in all different directions, like online and locally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like between Dan and I, we do have a large collection of AWI and World War II. So then obviously Eric, he has his little bolt action forces he's been working on. Okay, yes, Illinois. All right, there we go. And I think we're caught up.
So in talking about the pull of the group and other people to get you into gaming, that's totally, I mean, I think that's totally a great thing. Like when you actually have a group of people and, that you kind of have a feeling like if enough people are into it, I'll be able to play. Like, like even if somebody drops out of it, like there'll still be some other folks. And, I kind of want to tell a story I've already told on my channel once, and it was regarding Warhammer Fantasy. And when 6th edition first came out, the reason why I have the 6th edition rulebook, that is from when it first came out, and I still have that same one today, is that I had a friend of mine that just said, like, why don't we play Warhammer? Like, I wasn't playing tabletop games at all at that point. And he's like, let's play some Warhammer Fantasy. And so I was like, okay, I'm down to do that. And so what does that mean? Like, you have to buy like a ton of miniatures, and then I got to read these rules. I'm not even playing wargaming, so it's like this big book. It's not like playing a board game, like, where I'm just be able to pull it out and spend a half hour, 15 minutes reading it. But this big book, read this whole thing, paint the thing, like, because I actually did try to paint it. Like, I didn't try to play with metal models. And we played once, and then it just like completely fizzled and never played it again. And so in some ways, it's always a danger in that, like there's always a danger of the whole loss of interest and, like today's fancy kind of thing happening. But if you're really, really into it, then you'll kind of find a way, even if like, as far as continuing to enjoy painting it and finding someone else to play the game with or whatever. But if you get into it and it fizzles. You were never kind of into it that much to begin with, or like it was just sort of like you did it mainly for the crowd. There is that danger. And, you know, there's another story that I had, and this is a little bit different, but the same, I guess, is I got into Drop Zone Commander with a friend. And to be honest, I wasn't that enthused, but it was like, oh, why don't we just buy the core set and then split it? You know, so I didn't buy the whole thing, but I bought like a core set that you got 2 sides with it, and we just sort of split it. But then again, just totally fizzled, and we both at different times lost interest, and then just got out of it. And so it was just sort of like a not totally inspired limp into the thing, and then of course it proved disaster for it. And so yeah, so there, to me, I've had some situations that have gone like that.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it works out a lot of times, is that, you know, there's that initial interest, and you know, on both sides, or a bunch of us might buy a box set or 2 or something, and everybody has it. And then next thing you know, no one decides to play it ever again. And that's the worst thing you have with it. Now, you can mitigate some of those problems if you're playing like historical games. Because a 28 mil historical miniature will be usable in any other historical 28 mil of the same era. So you just like, oh, we'll just use these rules and just, you know, plop it over. So you're just like, I got the miniatures. I'm not feeling bad about it. You know, it's like,
yeah.
And once again, you can just say, we'll spend $20, $30 on a rule book. And it's like, if it works, it works. If not, you know, it's not like you're out. You already got the miniatures.
Yeah. You definitely can reuse the miniatures, which is good. But even if it was historical, if you were never really that much into the period, but you just sort of join the crowd, and there's a good chance you're never going to use them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like I went through the same thing you did with Drop Zone Commander. It's like I bought heavy into it, and it's like I bought, you know, enough armies for everybody to play the game, and then, you know, it's like I had painted them up and everything. It's like, all right, got this, and it's like, I'm not interested anymore. Okay, thanks. You know?
But I am Drop Zone Commander Central. What do I do now?
Yeah, it's like, all right, so okay, I guess I can start selling them off, and I end up doing that. That's, you know, I think you did the same thing, just got rid of them.
I quickly got rid of it, and you know, in some ways, I kind of regret it, because I don't bring that up to say that Drop Zone Commander's a good game. Actually, from what I can tell, I think it's actually probably a really good game.
Yeah, it was a good game.
Yeah,
I liked it. It had some good mechanics to it.
In some ways, I regretted selling it off. I just, it was a bit of a, in the same way that, because I don't sell enough stuff off, actually.
Yeah.
But in the same way that I quickly got into it, I also quickly sold it. And then I thought later, like, oh, I should have maybe kept that. Particularly when I was getting back into Epic, because I was like, oh yeah, like this is very similar. I probably would have enjoyed that. I
finally got rid of the last of my Drop Zone Commander in, I think, September.
Okay.
Yeah, shipped it off to China. Like, it took for like 2 months for it to get there, but you know, it was like, I told him, it's like, hey, it's going to China. I can't guarantee you're going to make it to you. He's like, oh, that's okay. No big deal. Not in a big hurry. We just want the miniatures. All right. It's like, if they get lost, don't come back to me and cry, because you know, it's not my fault.
So why don't we take a look at the comments real quick? It looks like we've got a lot in since the last ones.
Where are we at? Okay, we need to get Eric into Warhammer Fantasy. That's what that Tomb King's army of mine's being painted up for. The big throwdown. And we'll play one game and call it good, right?
Sell all our miniatures.
No, I think my Tomb King's army is going to be one of those armies that I might slowly keep adding to. Oh, no, not the goblins. I do have a lot of goblins. I got a small goblin army for... Actually, I got rid of most of my orcs and just have mostly goblins left. For
sense some animosity in the future.
Yeah, definitely animosity.
I fizzled on 6th. So for me, it's kind of funny because although it fizzled, I actually kept the book, and now that's the rule set I'm playing again. And so And it's kind of cool because I not only like to go back and look at it from that period, but just the old printing and stuff. I kind of like the game actually, Sixth, and from what I played of it, I quite like it. But yeah, you know, I think it can happen at any time. The whole fizzling on something.
Yeah, I played 6th edition a little bit, and then some 7th, and we started getting into 8th pretty good in our local store because we had a league type thing going on, slow grow league happening, and then next thing you know, the Games Workshop did their infamous Scorched Earth and Senate.
Looks like Alan's joined us in the house. Hello, Alan.
Hey, Al. So I also painted a ton of War of 1812 and 28. So I doubt any of you do those. I haven't done any 1812. The only thing I've ever done in 1812 would have been in Napoleonics on the other side of the pond. So,
you know, I know Musket and Tomahawks added 1812 to their 2nd edition. I'm not sure if Eric had that in mind or if he's doing like Black Powder or something.
Yeah, I'm not sure at all. The Land of the Free rules that we have will also go into that era. So it is possible. Yeah, it's for the American side of it. That is something that it's not well represented in miniature lines for the American side of that war. Picking up Baron's War, yeah. I think that Baron's War is kind of intriguing. We'll have to check out sometime because it's supposed to be released this month sometime. I'm not exactly. I got the PDF of it that I picked up because when I bought it, I got the hard copy and the PDF just to you know, up the number, because if you've spent 35 pounds, I think it was, you get a free miniature. So I was like, hey, I'll buy a couple more miniatures and get the PDF also, just to, you know, in case somebody wants to look at it. So, okay. I think I got into 40K because my friends wanted to. Then they fizzled and moved away. That happens a lot. But I can use them with something else. I have Dark Elves for fantasy. I never played it. I have a lot of Dark Elves. The murder wenches, as I like to call them.
But that's another army, the Dark Elves. That's something that you should be able to use for different things if you wanted to. You could use it for like Saga Age of Magic. You could use it for Oathmark. You could use it for lots of different things, including Games Workshop games too.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is good.
That's one of the motivating factors, like looking at Age of Magic, was that I do have a lot of fancy miniatures that I could use to throw in there. And even when we were playing Frostgrave, you know, that we dug out the fantasy miniatures and used them, because you know, basically you're building a little war party to go adventuring with, and you fight against other war parties. And if you have 10 miniatures for your entire party, it's a lot. So it's not like you need a lot of them. Yeah. They crashed my check sort. Oh, okay, got it. Cash the check. Yeah, it's like the it was a Footsore. Yeah, it's Footsore, right? It's doing Baron's War. They got some nice miniatures.
Oh yeah, those are beautiful miniatures, Footsore. I actually want to get their Vikings at one point, just for Saga someday or something. Any sort of Dark Ages.
And I am really looking at building it's like a Viking. When I'm looking at the Saga, build a Viking army, war band.
That'd be good. Yep. You can't go wrong with Vikings in Dark Ages.
Hey, they're a army that's always looking for a good place to pick up and move into, and motivate the people for, right?
So David says he has a lot of Necrons because of
Lots of
Lord
Necrons.
Draconum's friend. So the same friend that got him into Dark Elves got you into the Necrons.
Necrons. Watch a lot of Nick videos. That's what you end up doing. And I'm drinking Glenmorangie Signet. I do have over there the gift box of Glenmorangie that has their different samples in it. So we're caught up. All right.
All right.
Yeah, it's one of those. I think it is that when it comes to rules and trying to get into a new game, it has to be something that's going to motivate you in the long term. Because if you're not motivated, you're not going to touch it. Because there's a lot of times I'm looking at, it's like right now, I'm kind of motivated. The Barons War has me kind of interested in getting into like the Crusades era style of miniatures. That's one of the reasons I did buy those Foot Knights.
Right.
A month ago I bought those. Just before around Christmas time.
Yeah.
So it's an era that it's intrigued me because watching Vikings and then watching the what do you call it? The night movie or night show that's on that was on not the History Channel. Was it on the History Channel?
I can't help you.
It's
you're throwing out the life preserver here, but
come on, save me.
Go to the comments.
It's about the Knights Templars.
Okay. Was it called Knights Templar?
Huh?
Was it called Knights Templar?
I
thought there was something.
Nightfall.
Oh, Nightfall. Okay. I've heard of that. Yeah, I've heard of that.
That's a pretty good show. I liked it. I like watching it. The second season had Mark Hamill on there, and I enjoyed watching that. And I guess there's not going to have a third season, which kind of bumps me because I really enjoyed the show.
So what do you think? So this is a spin-off question before we go into the next topic. Spin-off question of this topic. What do, in your opinion, and people in the audience, think that companies do in order to get you to buy their games, whether it be Kickstarter or not? Like, because there is so much competition, and almost every single type of game style, whether it be big battles or skirmish or narrative RPG miniature style games, like they all, at this point, there's duplicates of almost everything out there, and so what are companies doing in order to get you and your friends to buy their new game, like to actually invest and spring for it?
Well, sometimes it will take a good sale going on. If you have, let's say, if you buy, it was really got me back into 28 mil, other than Dan motivating me, was when Warlord Games had their sprue sale, and you could buy sprues for like $2 a sprue, and I bought a big massive box of sprues. So that's equivalent of buying like 5 boxes of miniatures for nothing, And that was something that got me into the era. It's like I wasn't really willing to spend a lot of money on it, and then suddenly that come popping up, like, oh, okay. It was like like it hit the tripwire type thing. So that was one thing, is like having a really good sale on getting into the system. And it has to be an era that I'm willing to get into.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that so Oathmark is also, it's made by the company that made not Rangers of Shadow Deep, right? But the what is it? The skirmish game that's like more kind of like Mordheim. I don't play it, so I know it's really common. I just you just mentioned it earlier, I think, like where people are using their fantasy miniatures to create war bands to play.
Well, Frostgrave, yeah,
Frostgrave,
Osprey.
yeah. So isn't Frostgrave the one? Isn't the same? Isn't
It's
like
from
the same
Osprey
writers?
makes it, yeah.
Okay, I thought it was like had some commonality.
Yeah, I think
with writers.
it's the same company.
So the idea is you can play a mass battle game that you can use any sort of miniatures for,
Yeah.
like not just their miniatures, even though I know there is an official line that you can buy. But Frostgrave wasn't that unlike that. They had official miniatures too, but people loved it because you can recycle all your old miniatures. And so it's a new way to play a game that you've wanted to play with miniatures you already have. And so it's very appealing. And so that seems to be one way people are getting in. And another way is licensing. Like people are taking something that you can identify with that you couldn't before, like Game of Thrones, that drew a lot of people in. And as I understand it, it sounds like a really good game. Yeah, it's a really good game of itself. It sounds like, but like from a mechanics point of view. But people are buying in because they want to be able to, be the Baratheons, or whatever. Like, and you couldn't do that before without just making your own game entirely. And so that's drawing people in. And now the old world from GW is drawing a lot of people because even without any like concrete info of anything, like almost anything about the game is revealed. Like we talked about in the last episode, the very fact that they're mentioning the old world has like this army of people rising, you know what I mean? Like without even really knowing anything about it, at this point. And so they use lots of techniques, right? And the Marvel game is one where I did last year, like actually cash in. And it was because I could, it was the Marvel characters, right? Like I was like, I could play a game, it's going to be awesome. And I can use Marvel characters, and so that seems to be another way. And I was just thinking like, because in some cases it is like your friends that get you into it. But in other cases, like when they're trying to attract people to this game, what are, with so much out there that you can get into, what is breaching through, because you have your games that just keep coming out with different versions, like Infinity, just came out with another version, and like, Games Workshop games are always coming out with other versions, and all of them are doing that from time to time. Generally, when like the next book of, let's say, Black Powder came out, like people that really like Black Powder in many cases got it. Like, same thing with Bolt Action. It's been a long time, but when second edition came out, most people kind of crossed over and got it because it was just an extension of something that you already did. But I was just kind of thinking, like, what are the other things that these manufacturers are doing in order to capture like new consumers? So I don't know what people. I haven't seen too many comments that have said what they think in addition to that, or what they're doing to capture the market.
Yeah, it's like I think a lot of it has to be like when you're talking about the genre, like you got into the Marvel stuff. That was a superhero genre that really interested you and motivated you, even if you didn't have somebody to play with.
Right, and in that case, in that one, I do, but but I know what you're saying. Yeah, it's true. I would have probably gotten it anyway, to be honest.
Yeah, like here's a good point. It's like otherwise you're just building up a good library. I got an excellent rules library. You never know when they might come in handy again.
Even a miniatures library.
Yeah, I got a museum. All right.
Yeah.
Night at the museum. Oh, Last Kingdom. That's another good show.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's like historical miniatures by Oathmark. It's like Saga or Ragnarok.
Crossover.
Yeah. It's like Last King was good. Season 5 was supposed to drop late this year, I think. It might be good. I always look forward to it. It's like Frostgrave / Oathmark.
Yeah, I think he was confirming when I was asking what that game was.
All right.
Okay.
Night, Eric.
Eric.
All right, so it's fairly piggyback. Yeah, when you got something going on and it helps piggyback there, that brings out the excellent point, was that when you're piggybacking off of it, you can create a lot of hype with it. It's like right now they're kind of going off the Game of Thrones. There's that one. It's like a board game, I think, kind of a miniatures board game that's going on, and a lot of people bought into the hype, and that got people interested in it that probably would never have played miniatures games, and that's kind of like a gateway drug, and I would look at it that way.
You know, to a degree, I think. I mean, they're using a lot of different methods to try to get people interested to capture market, but to a degree, very little that comes out is really absolutely new. I mean, like Oathmark is an example where there's a new name of a thing that was created, and even though it has things you recognize like dwarves and elves and stuff, it's kind of new. But in a lot of ways, whether it be GW or other things, like the new Hero Quest board game that's coming out is very much relying on trying to bring back something that people recognize, you know, in order to sell it. And Games Workshop brought back a lot of the specialist games, and rather than just creating new things from scratch completely, like they're trying to capture sales by, let's say, when Blood Bowl came out a number of years ago, the second edition, you know, it was very much just trying to launch on the prior success of Blood Bowl, and then Adeptus Titanicus was very much that in my mind too.
They were banking on some of the older generation picking it up, and then there were also, you know, a lot of the new players that will look at it, because I don't know how many of the old players actually would come out of the woodwork to play it, versus you have a large new crowd of people that played Age of Sigmar that would look at it and go, hey, that's new, and hey, it's like Blood Bowl, that's a new game. Well, not really, but you know, some of us have been playing for that game forever and a day, and now it's back.
Looks like Dwayne's in the house over at Plastic Rock Gaming. Hello, Dwayne.
Crack lads.
Yeah, it's interesting. I noticed there were some miniatures games coming out that were based on video games. Like, I think they did some Skyrim miniatures, and then there was also another one from the more post-apocalyptic game, I believe.
Yeah, what the heck was it that we talked about it on the show once? I'm not. It's like,
but they're basically using the genre to try to become bigger in that regard, and I find that interesting because I don't get a sense that those ones were incredibly successful, you know, and in some ways I almost wonder, besides selling things because people want the miniatures just because you like whatever genre it is and you want to paint the miniature, I could see that. But in some ways, I don't know, is the video game market, feels like another whole topic, but is the video game market a great place to go reverse and make a tabletop game when it's already been successful as a video game?
Yeah, I look at the Halo, the Halo miniature game.
I forgot they made a game for that, and that's because it flopped, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, how many people that are playing video games that really like video games are like, oh, these video games I love, I'm going to go paint some statues that are static and move them around on the table.
Yeah. I'm not really sure there's a lot of people, if it was, let's say, something that was Hasbro style of crossover where, you know, it's like you're going to get a lot of kids that will buy that because, hey, let's play that. And they might buy it and then play it one or two times and they go, oh, okay. Then it gets shoved under the bed and lost forever type thing. I think that's a lot of what happens with these games.
Yeah.
There's no extension of it. It's a one-time thing, and then after that, it's zero interest follows up with it, because it takes, I think, a lot of effort of individuals to sit down and start playing a game to get that motivation there to continue playing that game. And there's there's a reason why there's so many of us that have so many miniature or board games that, or just games that we picked, box sets we picked up from, let's say, Games Workshop over the years, and they open up, put the miniatures together, and then they never get played or painted, or half of them get painted because I don't care about the other half of the army because there's no motivation there.
That's a good point, Rusty. This doesn't have a real anchor.
Yeah, Fallout Wasteland. That was it.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
That's one we were trying to think about. They've tapped into our consumer mind and through YouTube, Facebook, and other social media, creating the hype that feeds on itself. The real test to see if the game is successful in the long term is if you able to motivate them to continue to play, and then you have expansions. If you start seeing expansions for it and they sell out quickly, then you know you have that follow-on, that motivation.
So to some degree, I think with Dan's comment, it reminds me of the whole FOMO, fear of missing out phenomena.
Yeah.
Like the hype with Facebook and the shiny thing, and just, so actually I just pulled from his next comment here. Says, as consumers, we're quick to move on to the new shiny thing. How many games miniatures do we own that we were excited to get and never really touch? And so there's the fear of missing out, right? When you all of a sudden you see some cool pictures and then everybody's talking about and really liking it, and then excitement's kind of contagious. There's a little bit of that component, right, that they try to use for marketing.
Paul's
hey, Paul,
in the house.
Not too late. We're just like got another whole topic still to do. And so definitely on time.
We like to dream about playing the game, but through time or lack of opponents, we really never play it. It's like, I have a great example is I got a ton of BattleTech stuff. And back in the 90s or 80s and 90s, oh yeah, that cheers, mate. If I played today as much as I played back then, I would have 2, maybe 3 games a week of it. But we just don't play that much anymore.
Yeah.
But I still kind of have the hype for it. I'm constantly, there isn't a week go by that I'm not thinking about buying more BattleTech miniatures, but I just I don't need more.
I already have 3,000.
It's like, how many is enough? And it's like, now I'm thinking, it's like I do that, my thoughts from the Inner Sphere series. I am at the point now where I should put out a post on the BattleTech forum, the Facebook groups, and say, all right, guys, I need a picture of all these different mechs. And if you want to have your mech hosted on one of my videos, join is like, send me it, type of deal, or post it on the Facebook group. Now it can allow me to use it. And I'll put it in my videos. So instead of having me buy miniatures.
We won't say the word that we've already said. I'm designing and printing level 1, 2, and 3 apartment blocks for BattleTech. Oh, I did it. He tricked me. Can't wait for wave 2. I can't believe I'm that dumb. I'm not going to say that word. I'm just reading along.
You psyched yourself out saying that.
Yeah, I thought I was smart. Most of the experience is talking about having played, I think.
Ka-ching, gotcha.
But anyway.
Have you topped off your glass from the bottle now?
Oh yeah, no, it's empty.
Oh, okay. So you're already halfway through that bottle now.
Probably.
Yeah. 250
250 mLs in.
250. Let's see. There's 750 here.
That's just a little bit more potent.
Yeah. Like a way more potent.
So what do you think we move on? I think we've talked about this one pretty well enough.
Yeah, I think so.
Shall we move on to the next topic?
The topic is game balance is an illusion, or is it something that can be balanced out with, well, narrative play, basically?
Well, and when you say balanced out with narrative play, what I'm interpreting you mean by that is an unbalanced game you can enjoy by accepting the narrative.
Yeah.
Is that what you mean? Okay. Because so what I would, because I think you can have a balanced game, and although that's kind of laughable, like in some scenarios when you get a lot of variety, it becomes like almost more and more impossible to make the game imbalanced. Variety of units and like differences between sides, the more complex it gets, the harder it is to make it completely balanced. I think that there are certain games that become, I don't think DBA is totally balanced. I think there are lists, from the book that although there are a limited number of types of units, there is still imbalance between the sides. Like you still have asymmetry. And I just bring up DBA as an example because I do feel there's a lot about DBA that's very well balanced in some ways. Like there's a certain amount of balance that's really appealing and in that game, but then there's a certain amount of imbalance to make historical lists and make it fun. I think you can pursue a balanced game if that's what you're looking to do, and in many cases that's because you're trying to create a competitive experience that people aren't going to complain that one side is more fair than the other. Something like checkers or chess. The more you try to add flavor to it, then the more it can all of a sudden become imbalanced, and then it requires work to try to keep it, bringing it to an area that has an acceptable amount of balance and imbalance. And so, I don't know. I do agree with your kind of premise in the question that you can enjoy a game that's imbalanced by allowing yourself to just enjoy the scenario, the period, and the narrative, and just do what you can with it and have fun. Like just allow it to create the imagery that you want and the experience you want, and don't worry so much about like that, having it to be that a rule system that's that symmetrical, because really balance is about total symmetry. So that, I don't know, I feel like my answer is really discombobulated, but I'll let you go to it.
All right, let's start chopping this up in little pieces. You got a plan, you start with the plan, you reach the enemy, plan goes to hell, got to start a new plan. All right. It's one of those things where you look at a lot of games, they're really popular games. You look at them and go, okay, let's just talk about that 800-pound gorilla company out there. For example, they have their one game that they're really popular. It always seems that the newest book that come out is the one they want you to gravitate to buy. Mm-hmm. And it's really not balanced at all. And you always you look at it and go, oh, okay, it's like start playing and you realize, man, these guys are steamrolling over everybody. And you really look at it, it's like, this is not balanced. Not at all. This is balanced towards the balanced sheet, not the balance on the tabletop. So that's how I would look at those. And once you realize that, you're like, okay, I understand what they're doing here. So how do you get beyond that is, I think narrative play, like you were saying, is that you set up a scenario. It's like, okay, you set the game up. You're really not going to be sure what side you're going to play on. So you set it up and it's like, okay, here's the side. This is here, and then roll off and see what side you get. You could be on this side where you might, okay, these are really good troops, but you got less of them. So you might have to be forced to really be swift on your feet and light and be Cassius Clay type thing, where you got to, really work it and make you think. That's, I think, where a lot of games, I think that's what they're trying to do with their game system, to be honest with you. Now you get into some other games. It's like we played Armies of Arcana. Pretty good system. It does have, you look at it, and we both sides this last game, both sides had 2 weeks ago. It's like same amount of points. You look at it, go, why do I have more than he does? And then next week you like look at it and go, he realized his mistakes and then went with just the old Soviet Union style, more troops, and that type of thing. Where I went with better troops and
More
stuff
elite.
like that. And it ended up being really unbalanced. Was that he just steamrolled me, but it's kind of a hard thing to, when you look at it, is like things are not really going to be balanced at all unless you're, like you said, playing checkers or chess. That is not, even though you were playing checkers or chess, it may not even still be balanced because somebody's got to go first. It's balanced up to the point where you decide who get you, and it's like, all right, grab the hand. Which one? Oh, you're white. Okay, congratulations. So there's a slight advantage there.
Yeah. And it's interesting. I don't fault for people for wanting to have like a contest of wits and like that are tournament players and that basically really do want to compete, and I don't fault people for wanting that, because I think sometimes they do get a bad rap, like the folks that just enjoy that and they buy their stuff for that reason. But at the same time, if you're among friends and like you're not just playing against a stranger, and the premise is to try to just win, and like that's just, you're playing this game for that purpose. And sometimes, like, even if the game's not balanced, or if you feel like your day is like not set up for you, like the way you're positioned with deployment and the kind of army you have, like it just doesn't feel like great even at the beginning. Well, sometimes for me, it's just like, as long as I feel like I have a chance to do something, then I feel like I'll enjoy it. I mean, if you feel like you can try to do your best to be successful under the circumstances, then it can still be a really enjoyable game. You're like, okay, like I started out in this really rough patch, and what am I going to do with it? And like, how can I be successful in these circumstances, right? And then when you start thinking that way, because you're thinking of the circumstances, it's sort of narrative driven, right, in your head, like what you're thinking about with the game. And to me, there's a fun aspect of that, like all of a sudden it kind of turns it around a bit. But I think if you're not thinking that way, and if it's just about the end goal of winning, like, no matter what, I mean, I guess it just depends on the person. I mean, there's some folks that's just the kind of game that they want, and they're not really looking for anything else.
Yeah, being a really competitive type person I do really enjoy, I can be very competitive in a narrative game. It's like, I'm going to do my best to win, but if I'm set up with it's like, all right, here's the game, all right, go from there. It's like, okay, I'll just see what happens with it, and just see what, go with the flow. And that will, a lot of times where you start looking at it, it's like, okay, all right, so I'm stuck with this scenario. And it's like the last game that Dan and I played with Bolt Action. He set everything up, and it's like, okay, I get this side, all right. First thing I'm doing, I'm started analyzing the terrain. It's like, okay, where are the avenues of approach? Where's the fields of firework, and what's definitely. And I just start going through my head. It's like, how can I set this up for the best advantage of what I have for this scenario?
Yeah.
And that makes a big difference. And that's how I can become competitive there. And then the dice rolls are going to make a big difference too. And I was like, here's the dice immediately unbalance the game, especially when I'm throwing them. Which brings up an interesting point from the game that we had. It sort of came out in our video, the Armies of Arcana. I needed 1s and 2s to hit with, right? I threw 24 dice. I had 20 hits. That was, what are the odds of that happening, right? And then he turns around and immediately throws all of his dice and only has 2 fails. Out of 20, he only had 2 fails.
Wow.
So it was like an ungodly number of hits followed by an ungodly number of saves. You're like, why? The dice gods. look down upon your.
Sounds very balanced.
Yeah. So it's like the scales are like bounced right back out again. It's like, dang. Well, that's the things you can't. That's one thing you can't control is how the dice are going to end up being thrown
in a dice game for sure.
It's like you can look at it. The odds are, it's like in a dice game, you have 24 dice. You're going to throw, and if you need ones and twos to hit, you're looking at a 1/3 chance. So out of 24, they're going to have 8 hits out of 24. That's you're doing the numbers in your head, and out of those 8, he's probably going to save probably 50 to 66% of them. So he's going to fail at least 2. So by me getting that number and then followed by him, it's like the odds came out to be exactly almost the same as they were supposed to. But
when you want them to, that's the point.
Yeah,
like when you're doing randomness and like the larger number of dice rolls, like you should get statistical results eventually. But if they're not coming up where you want them to, and they're all coming up where you don't want them to, that's when people get upset. But I think the answer is that we just need to play with flipping coins instead of dice and just have large numbers of coin flips. Because statistically, they've always said, like, it's in the end, it all works out, right?
Yeah. Well, then you're just playing second edition Warhammer 40K. It's like, all right, got the army set up, roll. Oh, good game. That's pretty much how it felt in that edition. But all right, Clark's in the house. Arrived sooner than 10 minutes before the end of the show. Yay! All right, made it in, and you missed all the B words earlier. It shall not be named.
Yeah, that's right.
When was the last time you fired that? Oh yeah, that's that printer behind you, that 3D printer.
Yeah, well,
it was Christmas time you did.
Yeah, I did do quite a bit of printing in December, but in your observation, if you've noticed that I might not have been doing a lot of printing, it's true. I actually probably took at least 6 months to 7 months off of printing stuff. I printed this piece. I don't even think, maybe I did show it on the channel. I'm not sure, but it's kind of just a utility piece. But I wanted just a little stand for my.
Yeah, I think you showed it in the last show.
Did I? Yeah, I wanted to stand for my bottles on the counter. Just more of like a quick. I have my storage like over there, like of all my paint, in bigger racks, and then I wanted just sort of like little ones to have right by the ones I use the most, and so I printed that off and printed a mold for something that I'm doing over here for pouring some epoxy, and I printed some Christmas ornaments, and I printed like some things from masks at work to keep. But I've only recently got back into it. But one of the things I noticed is that my fan kind of went on my extruder, was starting to go. And so I actually had to purchase another extruder combo with fan. And so I actually just got that in the mail today. It's just sitting there. You can't really see it, but it's a black box, like just sitting right there. I got another Creality extruder. So I'm going to be doing some more printing, kind of getting back into it again, enjoying it again. But I kind of fell out of it for a while. To be honest, I have so much stuff. But the thing about 3D printing is that it's wonderful to be able to just print whatever you want. But what happens is the same thing with miniatures. I'm surrounded with stuff that I've 3D printed that I haven't painted. And so I already had a hard enough time keeping up painting miniatures and stuff before when I purchased it for like good money. And now that I can print all this stuff like for much reduced cost, it just makes it more of an issue that I just have all this more stuff that I just can't paint. So when I can print something that I don't have to paint, that's the sweet spot. Like, I love it. It's like, oh, I can print something to hold my razor. Yeah, let's do it. And don't print any miniatures.
For me, it was if I had a printer, depending on which style, if it was what you have, I'd be making lots of BattleTech buildings.
I know you're
trying to
doing
make
anything.
myself a landscape.
You waiting for me? So that's the long answer, Dwayne.
Paul says, "When? What's this when you speak of? I've never experienced it." There are some individuals that is one thing that they go through life. They just, no matter what, the dice gods hate them.
I find if I ever want to not win, I can just paint something new and put it on the table, because anything I paint and put down for the first time always dies.
The old adage is, a well-painted miniature fights well.
Yeah.
A gray, dull miniature leaves a dull battle. It's like that holder looks handy. Yes, I would imagine it's like you can walk over to your paints and go and put them in there and carry it back over.
Yeah, and it's just it's more even just, most of them won't change. Like I have like my varnishes in there. I have white and grays and some browns and my favorite washes. Like, and so basically just the stuff that I use like constantly, I just have there, so I don't. So actually, you know, it's not even so I don't have to travel back and forth. The reason why I like having this little caddy at the table is so I don't have them all on the table. Like it's just to create less of a mess, because I always have a mess when I paint. Like I have bottles everywhere. Well, now I'm putting them back right next to me, and so I just have less stuff like constantly around me. So that's the reason I like it. I'm going to make another one of these by the same designer for my GW paints. So I have like my GW style pots, my Vallejo style. And then I have my coat d'arms stuff just right up here anyway that I can grab off the wall. But
I always find it interesting. You see the guys in their videos where they have their entire wall. You know, it's like you see right there. That's my rack of all my CD, or not my cassette from my 80s collection of rock and roll. And but they have an entire wall. It's all paint, like, you know, what we have, and it's like, oh,
yeah,
I reach up and grab it. It's like, that's just too far to reach, you know. That it's just impractical. But I do have my little rack in front of me now because if somebody said I needed to get one, so I did. I probably should get another one to help organize my mess even more. Well, it's like 3D printing is a hobby in itself. Yes, it is.
It very much is, you know, and in some ways that's a good thing. You know, if you like to tinker and all that stuff, it's a good thing. In some ways, it can take like a morning of painting away. If you plan on printing something while you're painting and then your printer doesn't cooperate, you can find yourself like working on your printer that morning instead.
I do have a 3D printed resin miniatures. Was Dan and you and I were in that conversation with the ones I got from the company, and they sent me, and it's like I got all these miniatures, and I look at it, it's like I can't even make a miniature out of this pile of junk they sent me. And then it's fired off the nasty grandma. It's like, oh, sorry, we fired a person because they were screwing up, and like, well, that doesn't help me. And it's like, I need new stuff. Still haven't gotten a replacement for any of that yet, so that's why you have. But I did just get in some new stuff, some Tomb King stuff from the same company. So I need to clean them up, do the video make a video of it beforehand, and put together. No, that's one thing I need to do. But the new ones, the Tomb King stuff, is really nice. So.
Nice, sweet.
It's better to have a friend print it out for you. And yeah, if I had a friend, I do have a friend that has a 3D printer, but he never prints anything for me. I don't know what I'm doing wrong.
Seems like everybody's got a 3D printer these days. It's gotten to that point where like almost everybody knows somebody that's got one.
Yeah, I would like to get a resin one. Then I'd probably have a whole bunch of bee miniatures painted or printed out.
I have to say, you know, like, for me, I'm totally glad that I got the printer that I got, because for terrain and stuff, like I think for me it suits my needs better. But I have thought about getting the resin printer. Now that I'm seeing it more and more, I've thought about it. It's just, I don't know where I'd put it, actually, to be honest. I mean, I don't really have a good spot in my, like, I'd have to look. I probably can find a spot.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm complaining about.
I have room.
That's my worry, is I have nowhere to put it, but I'm sure I haven't really thought hard enough about it.
Moving some stuff around little storage room right over here where I put my stuff out of the site. I have room on the bench. I could put it there.
Yeah. I think the
So,
resin ones take up less space.
yeah, because they're smaller.
Well, and it's, yeah, like they're not as spread out. Like you don't have a reel on the side and all this stuff. It's just like it's vat. It just kind of goes straight up. I don't know. It seems like it takes less space.
From what I've seen. And the price is comparable now too. So
I haven't gone that far. I don't see myself getting one this year for sure.
yeah, it's going to be a year or two down the road for me. And I think a lot of it will have to determine, I have to make the space for it specifically and then figure out venting. And
Yeah.
it will probably be one of those things where in the summertime, or spring, summer, and fall, where I can have it vent to I got a window in there so I could use it as a vent. Wintertime wouldn't be at all, because like right now it's like, what, 12 degrees outside. So
yeah,
Fahrenheit.
and that's something I haven't even really researched it, because like the venting I know is a concern with chemicals and stuff. But
opponents' new painted units are my primary target. Yeah, it's like when you see their newly fresh painted miniatures out there, you have to attack them and put them in their place. That's the primary goal. It's like they spent all that time and effort into to make them so nice and shiny, and you crush them. You crush their spirit. Psychological warfare. Just saying. It also helps that I had one of my roommates was a psyops sergeant in the Army. So back when I was in the Army, like we talked a lot about psyops. Resin printers are smaller. Yeah, I think they're taller. They're the foot. I think like your bed itself it's printed off on is about the same size as the printer for resin. I don't see myself getting a resin printer. That'd be the one I want. Actually.
yeah, I mean, there's positives and negatives. It just depends on what you want to do.
Yeah,
pretty much. Palmer, do you do much venting for your printer? For the what is it? The PLA style plastic, I don't do any venting in here at all. I don't print that much, and from what I understand, it's fairly minimal. Any of the off gassing from the PLA, but yeah, I don't do any venting of it.
So you get a slight plastic smell when you're.
There's a little bit, yeah, like, but not. It's not significant, and I'm most of the time running it when I'm not in the room, and yeah.
I'll wait until I can buy a color printer. They're on the way. And I've seen those where they actually they color it by light itself. Depending on the spectrum of light, it just creates the color on the miniature, so it comes out and it's actually colored.
I like that new technology they're experimenting with, that where they're shining light at it and spinning it in a tube of resin and basically having it just appear, like literally in there. I mean, that just looks amazing. That's the future, right? You just have this like bath of liquid and it spins and it just instantly creates, like with the light it shines on it, just turns it to solid. That's quite amazing.
That's one. And my understanding is that they can use a different spectrum of light to create the color.
Oh, okay.
So we'll just see how that works out. I could see that happening probably in five years. That'll be a very marketable type of printer. That would probably be expensive at the time. But we'll just see how it works out. I have a theory that the newly printed miniatures draw attention on the tabletop, hence not lasting very long in the game. They stand out more. Yeah.
Psychological.
Yeah, it's like if they're freshly painted, or if you got an entire army of plastic gray or shiny metal or just primer, and they're the only painted ones, oh yeah, they're fixating on it. Now, if it's a really tough unit that is hard to kill, oh yeah, paint them up first, make them focus on them, and then watch them like washing the waves crash up on the rocks.
See, I have a slight twist on that theory. See, my theory that's like that is, he likes that miniature. He just painted it. He's so proud of it. I must kill it.
It must die.
He likes that. I will kill it.
Time to get the kids to bed. Good night.
Good night, sir.
Jarl Mazak.
Hello, Jarl Mazak.
That's
Looks like a Viking shield on there.
yes, it is. I have to have him introduce himself here.
You froze there, Rusty, for a second. So this topic was about balance, and I think we've, in true Musty Wargamer fashion,
we went into a subtopic.
Weird, way
of
away
the
from
topic.
it.
We balanced.
Now we're talking
it with
about
a little
the
bit
psychological
of,
killing of your opponent's favorite miniatures.
Yeah. Well, balancing a game, it's a tough road, and I think the premise of it, it's a optical illusion. A balanced game is an optical illusion. I don't think it's ever going to happen unless you're playing. While there was a few games, it's like you look at Stratego, chess, checkers. There was an old Avalon Hill game. I think it was it named Armor, maybe? Both sides have identical forces, and you just kind of move them around. It was like the early version of Stratego, but with counters. So in the long run, I don't think it's a possible thing. But the only way you can attempt to balance it, give the illusion of balance, is through a narrative play and setting up the scenarios and go that route.
Well, and it's interesting because in a lot of ways, when we talk about this in the context of war games, many people will always bring up this idea that, like, when was there ever a war that was balanced?
There never has been.
Yeah. And so if that's the case, then, is this really a war game if you're somehow trying to simulate the trappings of war in a balanced fashion in order to play a game? But you're mostly wanting to play a game that has like this imagery of war, but it's not really a war game because it's not, balanced, or it is balanced, I should say.
Yeah.
And so, sorry, but, like, there is that sort of conflict there, in that if you truly want to experience like a game that has a flavor of war, then it would almost have to be imbalanced.
Yeah. But being an individual, well versed in the art of war myself through schools and all the other fun stuff that goes with it, you never want to go into combat on equal terms. You're always going to use you're always going to maximize your force in a focus point to cause as much havoc and destruction as possible to unbalance your enemy, to be able to crush them. That's the whole the whole thing. Maximize your firepower, and be it using like artillery, air, whatever, an armor, whatever assets you have on a fixed point, and just annihilate it. And it doesn't work well when it comes to when you look at gaming, because both sides, like, you got 2,500 points, I got 2,500 points. Now build your army. Now that's where you start coming in with that's the only balance you're going to have when it comes to the game, is you're going to have both the same number of points. Then you go from there. It's like, I'm going to buy these units or these units, and is this guy going to buy really elite units, or is this guy going to buy a whole bunch of just cheap knockoff troops that just going to overwhelm my opponent with?
Right. And
that's where you start wargaming it in your head. It's like, how am I going to build my force to take on my enemy to win? And then even when you start throwing the dice, it's like there's an unbalanced thing. It's like, okay, my unit throws 1 die per soldier, and this guy's got weapons that may throw 3. That's an imbalance right there. That's not perfect. Like, all right, this guy's got a bolt action rifle, and this guy's are coming in with submachine guns. So it's like the only balance is I'm going to be able to probably get 2-3 shots in with there's the balance. It's like, you're going to get 2-3 shots on this side versus when they finally get into range, they're going to hose you. So you have they try to balance that out in some aspects of the game too, with ranges and all that. But it's still going to be a long slog of ever trying to have the full aspect of it being fully balanced. And as Clark says, asymmetrical warfare is more exciting anyway. Pretty much. Anytime, and that's kind of like how you kind of create that sometimes with a scenario where you sit there and design the game to be sort of an asymmetrical. How will these small unit be able to handle taking on a horde of stuff? Tell that to clanners. You never want to go into equal turns. Yeah, clanners, they definitely do not go to war in equal turns. It's like the batch ball. I like balanced war games. I like unbalanced war games. I just enjoy the experience of having a game with good friends. And that is part of the, I'd say the, oh, I want to try to put it in words.
I think it's as long as the good friends have shiny miniatures that you can kill right away. Shiny, brand new painted miniatures.
Yes. bring your new shiny stuff so we can kill it. Yeah, it's a contract. There you go. Social contract between people. You go there. The reason you're going there is that is that you're going to have fun with your friends, or spend time with your friends, the comrades together. And if somebody's going to win, it's like if there's 2 people, you have a 50% chance of winning. If there's 4 people, you're still probably going to have a 50% chance of winning. And sometimes if you have somebody on your side, your odds are going to probably be about 40% because you got to be doing more lifting because they're tactically are horrible. So it's like, oh man, I got stuck with them this week. Gosh, okay. Oh, I got some heavy lifting this time. But yeah. Okay, that's why I want to find a game where you have to buy terrain and place it and use it to your advantage, not just buying a better or worse unit. Now that's an interesting concept that you don't see very often.
Mm-hmm.
Is that
the focus on the table itself and less on the miniatures?
Yeah. Because if you're forced, it's like you always see these games where I'm going to put all my guys on my ranged weapons on the hill so they can shoot over my own troops. Well, that necessarily may not happen in the battlefield. So if you buy that piece of terrain, then you can use it. That's an interesting concept. I never thought that you don't see very often. Learn to have fun losing is the best way to enjoy war games. Yeah, it's like I said, it's like you have, if there's 2 people playing, you got a 50% chance of losing too. You just go with that mindset. The little guys are going to get resurrected at the end of the day. Don't put a charge. Okay. No, don't put you in charge of the cavalry. Unless you're playing Rusty, you have 0% chance of winning, or maybe it's just my luck. Well,
you're hitting a soft spot there.
Let's say, how many games have we played now? 3. It's like, all right, I sacrificed a few goats so I could roll better with my dice. Okay, it's a trade secret. I'm sorry.
So he's 3-0 against you, or you're 3-0 against him?
Yeah, I'm 3-0.
Oh, okay. Because he said unless you are playing Rusty, you have a 0% chance of winning. So I kind of read it opposite.
Yeah. I have a tendency to win more games than I lose. Let's put it that way. I forgot to write me.
When I actually
don't put me in charge of the cavalry. That's what you're saying.
When Jarl Mazak said learning to have fun losing is the best way to enjoy war games, I have to admit, what almost the test for me is when I sit down and play a game and I walk away and I'm enthralled about a game I lost and I just think I had the most amazing time. That's actually the best game, you know, for me in a lot of ways. Like, I can think of a number of games, and ones that come to mind are ones that I've just played frequently that I like, and that's like Saga and Star Wars Armada in particular. Yep. I've walked away for games of those games at times, just really having enjoyed the game, even though I lost, and thinking about what I'm going to do next time, and not feeling that I couldn't have done something different, that it was just the game's fault, that it was just truly an opportunity to play again and win next time. But I just really loved the game. Like, I just really loved it. And in particular, those are two of them that I really enjoyed. And I would say the one I mentioned earlier, the DBA, the old DBA. I wouldn't even say the old. I think I played a 2 something. But I played with a friend that was showing me that game. And, you know, I won some and I lost some. But I'll tell you, it didn't matter whether I lost. I still felt it was a lot of fun.
I always come away from a loss sitting there scratching my head and go, okay, I'm going to have to figure out why I lost. Sometimes I know why I lost. And then there's other times like, okay, I used a different tactic and it didn't work. It's like, and I just start wargaming in my head. It's like, okay, I'll play through the entire game. And it's like, all right, that worked. That didn't work. Okay. In that circumstance. And it leaves me sitting there going, okay, I learned a lot from the game by losing. And that's an important thing you have to take away from it, is that it's just a game. First of all, you're going to lose. You got to get, like I say, every time you have a 50% chance, if you're just two people playing, you got a 50% chance of losing. Always know that. And it's not life or death unless it's for some reason you got yourself into some game. It really matters if you win or not. It's like, but typically, I say 100% of the time, you're just playing for the sake of just having fun. Just go with it. It's like you're going to win. Maybe you're going to lose. Yeah, most of the time. So just live with it. And I think get so wrapped up in it.
Yeah, like sometimes I don't want to go too far with this concept, but because I do think there are some games that just, for lack of a better word, suck. And like, I've played games where I lost and I was totally dissatisfied with the loss. And it wasn't because I didn't win. It was because the game kind of sucked. Like, I just felt like I lost, but I honestly, after even having, let's say, played it more than once, like I honestly don't see this being fun whether I win or lose. And like, I didn't really like the game. Like, you know, I just didn't find that it actually was that great. And, you know, and for whatever reason, for a myriad of reasons, you know, and so sometimes there are games where you lose and you absolutely just don't like the game. Sometimes there are games you can win and not like the game, you know, at times. But there is that sweet spot, like when you really love a game, like, you know, when you lose and you walk away and you just can't wait to play again, and you had a fun game, you know that you found a good one.
Exactly. It's like we played the Armies of Canada. I pretty much would say I lost that game. We called it, you know, just like, okay, I think I'm losing. I'm tearing some units up, but I can see the writing on the wall that I'm probably going to lose this. Go another 2 turns and I probably will lose. And like, okay. But I learned a lot from list building with that game. That's a lot of it too, is that I enjoyed playing it, had a lot of fun, learned a lot about it. And it's like, I can't wait to play it again. And that is something that you want from playing your game. And sometimes that it's like, it may be that you're just playing a scenario, you're playing a pickup game, or no matter what it is. And if you come away from it going, yeah, I want to play this game again and again. And it's like, win or lose, I find it's a very enjoyable game system. Yeah. And that's what matters when it comes down to it. And eventually, though, you get to you're always going to have some people that just hate losing. They just get so pissy or angry, and it's like, I don't want to play with this person ever again. And that's a distractor too from it, where it's like, man, it's like you get into some of those pickup games that you play at the game store, and you're just like, oh, great, I'm stuck playing against this guy, or he's on the guy that is on your side, and you're like, oh man, it's like you're sucking the life out of this game. Usually, if you're playing someone with the same mindset as you, you will have fun regardless of the result. And you can have fun with the results as the game is going along. It's like fighting over the Cabbage Patch type of deal. That's, you make it a little scenario within the game, that type of deal. It's make it enjoyable. Have fun doing it. And if this is, you only get to play this game once every 3 months, enjoy it. Have fun, no matter what's going to happen. Having campaigns over multiple months makes losing more bearable for new gamers too. Nobody likes losing, but having a second chance is always a good redeeming factor.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Exactly. That's one nice thing sometimes if you get into these leagues where it doesn't matter. It's like people are just kind of rotating who you play and not playing the same person every time. That helps too. Because you get in some of those things like, oh, I gotta play against him. He always wins. Like, I'm sorry. You always let the new guy win. Is that like letting your kids win too?
I actually didn't let my daughter actually would just beat me outright. I was like teaching her a game and she would just beat me anyway. Yeah, I think that's a good concept, particularly when you don't know each other. I would preface that with like when you don't know each other. I mean, that's a matter of perspective. I actually think I can see how taking it easy and not trying to like hammer on someone with your knowledge of the game and strategy, like when you're just trying to teach somebody the game, makes a lot of sense. Having said that, I don't mean to disagree with you, Paul, but sometimes like I never like to play when somebody's just throwing it for me. Like if I sense that they're throwing it, like completely, then it's not as fun for me either. I like them to put a little effort in. I just think like not going crazy, with trying to really be competitive, when somebody's new is a good idea. What do you think, Rusty?
Yeah.
An interesting point.
There's been quite a few times where you're sitting there and it's like they got a demo game or something going on and say, hey, check out this new game. And you just know that they're throwing it.
Yeah. Just
to make you interested by letting you win. It's like, you're not making me interested in the game by letting me win. It's like, sorry. It's like, I'm a type of person, I like to be challenged. I like to just grind it out type of thing, work hard at it. When you guys go, boy, you're throwing this. You're just not, it's like, that's not fun to me. You're sucking the life out of it here.
Well, there's a difference between like really trying to beat somebody that's just trying to grasp the rules, than just,
you're beating the poor guy that's the horse is down, it's like, it's dead. You quit beating the horse,
Yeah.
That's one thing versus, just throwing it for the sake of letting somebody win. I don't like, that's, say you're watching a football game and it's like, guys running down the field and oh, I tripped. It's like you're trying to throw this for some reason, aren't you? What, you got a bet on yourself or something? It's like what goes through your head.
I mean, I play games sometimes. I have in the past. I haven't been playing games during COVID with anybody, but Lord Draconum, Brad, I played some games with him where he's starting out with the game and like he's totally beat me. And but I also think I'd be interested in his thought because we've never really talked about it, but I don't think I've ever really like thrown games. Like I always try, but I'm not trying to be cruel. Like I just, I've always tried, but I like when you're learning or you're just trying things out, like, we just, most of the time, I mean, neither one of us are like ultra competitive at each other or anything like that. It's just, but, I have made the mistake of actually like showing someone Musket and Tomahawks once and having them lose. But they were a veteran gamer that I played with before, and I think that's a difference too. Like, I think if you know the person, they're a veteran gamer, and you actually played games, and they know strategy and this and that, then to some degree, like, I think you can just play and just explain where you're going along. But particularly when it's somebody new, you don't know their experience level at all, and they're just showing interest in it, and you don't know who they are. I think taking it quite easy is probably a good idea. I wouldn't disagree with that.
Yeah. I feel really bad because we had this one 40 game game. It was a 7th edition. Yeah, 7th edition game. I know my son was playing in the game. He was on my side, and there was a couple other kids that were on the other side, and they wanted to learn. And it was hard because I ended up waffle stomping the heck out of them, and they didn't ever play it again. And the problem was I kept trying to tell them, it's like, if that unit does this, or they can do this, giving them some options as they're trying to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And they wouldn't listen to what I was trying. It's like, the options, and they would just like go do their own thing. And it's like, and then they get themselves thrown into the circumstance where they just get mowed down in droves. Like, you're not using your cover, you're trying, it's like everything you can in the game to keep them alive.
Yeah.
And they just wouldn't listen. And they end up losing, and you can tell they're getting mad because they're losing. It's like, I'm trying to do my best to help you guys, teach you the game at the same time. And it's like, you can lead the horse, but sometimes they just don't want to, drink from the well of knowledge. That's the sad part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, here you got the only time losing is frustrated. Yeah, I've been in some games where they get extremely cocky in your face, and it's like, you just like, man, it's like, sorry,
we're still playing with toys here, right?
Yeah, it's like, sorry, man. It's like, and they ask like, "Wow, so how many times you played this game?" This is my first time, and they kick you because they know the ins and outs of the rules, and it's like, yeah, you suck. You don't know what you're doing. It's like, that's the first time I ever played War Machine. It's like, I'm sorry. It's like, I just got the rule book the other day, and it's the first time I read them, and it's my first time my army's been out there, and they just like doing all kinds of stuff to you, and then they get in your face, and like, I think I made a mistake maybe getting into this game, and then I went back and really learned that, and they never beat me again.
Never.
So I'm sorry. What you did is you really pissed me off enough that I wouldn't just. It's like, okay, I'm going to really delve deep into this. My intent was just to beat them.
It triggered you.
It's like you tripped my trigger, man.
Why don't we let's check out the comments. We got to get in behind here a little bit.
All right. I would give the new player every advantage possible. Yeah, definitely. You want to get them interested in the game. I've even gone to the point of giving, let's say, one of those B games that we don't like to say about, but giving them an extra mech or two.
So every advantage possible, but I would still play to win.
Yeah. I would give them, let's say, if you're playing, let's say, a 5,000 point game, I would give them 5,500 or 6,000, just enough so they have one more mech, so they would have a slight advantage. Because I have a lot of advantage when it would come to experience. They don't. So you kind of skew it. That's where narrative play. You create a narrative situation where you're giving them a little bit of advantage to help them out by a little bit more firepower.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you kind of screw somebody over, and you don't want to. And it's like, definitely, if you come back away from a game with a really bad taste in your mouth, sometimes it's really hard to come back, and sometimes just like, screw it. I don't, zero interest now. You can destroy him on the second game after he bought the rules and figures. Yeah.
So yeah, Brad's. So yeah, I mean, like, my perception is mostly with my friend group, and Brad included. We just generally play to have a good time. It's pretty easygoing. So
sometimes it's important to sit around and have a little food and munchies and chat and discuss how the game's going, and you want to make the first impression of the game very positive, regardless of win or lose. Nothing worse than a hard loss out of the gate discourages a new player. Yeah, if you waffle stomp them, it's like, hey, try out this new game, and then stomp all over them, do the dance, going, I win, no suck.
When you think about it, though, like if you're truly trying to stomp somebody, then like the experience, they know that they're not. Most people aren't idiots, right? And so if they don't come back, it's not even necessarily just for the loss too, or even the game. Like to some degree, like they're just not coming back to see you again. Like if they just first meet you, they say that they're just starting out, and you just have a bad taste in their mouth, and that's kind of what's happening.
You are a bad ambassador.
Rusty, what did I do to you?
Yeah. I never thought you threw any of the games we played.
Yeah, because I don't generally throw a game, but I mean, like, I think there's a difference between really trying to leverage everything to win, and throwing it. There's a big gap between that in my mind.
My first ever miniature Wargame was Axis and Allied miniatures, and for months that person who introduced to me would win every game. But once you win your first game, it is definitely inspiring. And that's the thing, is like if you know somebody's a master at something and you eventually beat the master at the game, yeah, it's something that really feels good. That's I guarantee you. My first war game was Rapid Fire. Oh yeah, I didn't know what the hell was going on. Never played it again. Yeah, that can happen. It's like you get into a game where you're just totally lost. You go to a convention, and that's what I've been introduced to. A lot of games at conventions. You go up and say, this session I'm going to try this game, and you go out and go, and they just start rattling off rules and stuff. This does this stuff, this is this, and like, man, I have no idea what the heck is going on. I'm just here to, it's like, kind of walk me through this, Anybody else on my side, what's going on? And everybody's like, and it's like, and you look at the other side, and it's like, oh, anybody you guys play? Oh, I've been playing for 5 years. I've been playing for 6 years. I wrote the rules. And you're like, why aren't one of you guys on this side? And then you end up getting waffle stomped, and like, I have zero interest in that game now. But thank you, Mr. Ambassadors. Okay. All right. We'll see you. Thanks, Clark, for stopping in.
See you, Clark. Yeah, no, that's that was an interesting segue too. We kind of went from game balance to new opponents and how we handle new players, and when you're in that privileged position of showing someone a game, how that should be done.
Well, that sort of introduces the narrative play in a way. Like you set up a scenario, a narrative to introduce somebody to a game system. And I think that's very important, is that you want to create the fun to get people to play. And if you create it where it's totally skewed 1,000% in your favor and not in theirs, they're not going to like it at all.
That's true. Totally true. All right. Well, I think we've kind of covered the topics for the most part for the show tonight.
Yeah, I think so.
We're caught up on comments.
We got 11 viewers in tonight too, just to let you know.
Yeah. 2 interesting topics, lots of good comments and chat in the comment section. Thanks everybody for joining in.
It helps out a lot when everybody's in the chat room is talking. That feeds us too, so that helps out a lot.
Absolutely.
All right, so we'll be back in 2 weeks with you on your channel, and hopefully we have some topics.
Have we ever not yet?
Well, there's been a few times that over the years that we go really close.
Close, but have we ever not?
Yeah. Oh, we've had topics. We've been really close and figure out what we got to talk about. Yeah.
Thanks very much, Paul. We'll see you, Dan. See you, everybody. thanks for joining in tonight, Jarl Mazak. Great comments and input into the chat tonight.
Oh, what's your channel?
Oh, Heresy Productions. But the easiest way to find us and to know what's going on, this isn't a sales pitch, but on Facebook, the Musty Wargamers, just like what this is called on the video, the Musty Wargamers. If you actually care, if you use Facebook, you can join there, and there's always there's lots of info. But my channel is Heresy Productions, and there's a Z on the end of Productions. You look up Musket and Tomahawks or something like that on YouTube, and my videos might come up for something like that too.
Another easy way too is to figure out which channel's which. Is that if you go into my channel, if you're already here, is that you go and look in the playlist that I have. There's the Musty Wargamers playlist, and it alternates back and forth. It'll be my time to host, and the next time will be his host.
So they'll show my channel there too, in the playlist on Rusty's channel. That's probably an easier way. Yeah. All right. Thanks very much, Brad, for joining in too. Thanks for everybody, and we will see you next time.
All right. Good night, everybody. We'll see you in a couple weeks.